Good morning, and welcome to this special edition of Exploring Economic Development with MEDC. Today we are thrilled to be talking about the sports tourism industry in Marlborough, Mass. We have some very special guests with us that we'll get to just after we do our little recap and admin with my co-host here, Jill.
Lindsay, it's
Hi.
Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month, which means we are live streaming. We're very excited. So usually this show is just called Exploring Economic Development, and we talk about all things economic development related to Marlborough. So we have lots of different special guests that come in. And today, though, we call this special 23rd episode Inside the Industry. And so that's really our focus today is going to be on hospitality and sports tourism, which is Lindsay's wheelhouse because this girl, she knows her stuff. She is very experienced, and she's also a Marlborough native. You bleed orange. I don't think anyone loves Marlborough. And I hate to say this because I'm also a Marlborough girl.
We have some Marlborough people
Lindsay.
in the room.
We do.
Yeah. So, quick recap of last episode. We had John Pizzoni in, commercial broker. We got to talk about the great partnerships that MEDC has and why it's important for the city to have these relationships with commercial brokers and what that means for economic development. So, thanks again, John, for joining us. It was a great time. Lots of great content from that about just how the city continues to work together to make sure that everyone has the needs they need.
Yeah. And the unique things that Marlborough really offers, and even how, like, the collaboration between different city departments and our leadership, and just, yeah, this is the best.
All good Marlborough stuff.
It's all good things.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you are joining us live, we're streaming to Facebook and YouTube. So please, you can comment, and as you comment, like I'm going to pull up right here, we can incorporate your comments, your questions into the live stream. So feel free to comment. We'd love to hear what questions you have for us, for our special guests. And if you're watching this on the replay, we do check our comments there too. So if you have certain things you want us to clarify, or maybe there's special guests or topics that you want us to discuss in future episodes, you can leave that there. And we're also going to be showing this on Marlborough's local cable access channel, WMCT TV. So hi, how are you? Our phone number is below and our email's down there too. So you can also totally join the conversation. We are here to answer your questions and just to provide some economic development podcast glory. So anything you need, let us know.
All right, here we go. So today we're so excited to have three representatives from businesses in Marlborough. We have Mike Matros from the BFit Heroes Cup hockey tournament. We have Oliver Vieten from New England Sports Center, and we have Richard Tomanek from the Embassy Suites in Marlborough. So let's have you, Mike, kick it off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what Marlborough means to you, and here we go.
Well, appreciate it. Appreciate having me here. So Marlborough's been home to me my whole life. Graduate of Marlborough in 03. Played on the hockey team and met all my friends through hockey in Marlborough, right? So still to this day, those are the guys I keep in contact with. But when I was running the marathon, I'm a career firefighter in Sudbury. I went back up a little bit. And when I was running the marathon, I needed to have a fundraiser. And so I had reached out to Wes Tuttle and said, hey, Wes, what can I do? I know hockey. And he's like, let's have a game. So Sudbury played Framingham in a very well-marketed event, and people thought that it was a tournament, but it was just a single game, and that kind of spiraled into the Heroes Cup. Now we're 5 years later into the Heroes Cup, and the Heroes Cup is the largest first responder hockey tournament in the world, and what better place to host it than hometown of Marlborough? It just happens to be we have the best rink in the country to handle something like that, so yeah, that's where how we got started.
How many teams are signed up so far this year? It's pretty
so it'll be 100
impressive.
Teams this year. Be our biggest year yet this year with between on ice and off ice stuff that we have going on all weekend long.
And they're not just towns playing each other.
We have teams from out of other countries. We have teams from all over different states. We have a ton of West Coast teams coming, a bunch of Canadian teams. We have a team from Newfoundland. I think we even have a team from Ireland actually coming in this year. So we certainly have pretty good reach of people coming into the city.
Absolutely. So cool. All right, we'll move over to Oliver. Tell us
Hi,
lots
Lindsay,
about
how
you.
doing?
Yeah.
My name is Oliver Vieten, and I'm the general manager at the New England Sports Center since last year, September 2021. And as you can tell, I'm not from Marlborough. I'm originally from Germany, and I'm a former professional hockey player. And after I retired in 1995, I moved over here to the States. And since then, I'm involved with hockey. I've been coaching for probably around 25 years. I have 3 kids, 2 of my boys, they played hockey, and we're all done with this now. But I'm still involved. I started, the owner from the Minimum Flames asked me this year to coach the U14 and the U16 team. So I'm back coaching, in addition to running the New England Sports Center.
I love that because it'll just give me more opportunities to see you when I'm there for hockey.
I know. I'm a hockey nut, so
I'm always peeking in the office to see if I can catch you, which I do sometimes.
Well, you know where to
great,
find me.
But yeah,
you know where to find me.
I'll be looking on the ice now.
And I'm looking forward. It's definitely a challenge. So as a newcomer, I'm going like, yeah, no problem. I can run the New England Sports Center. But when you're in it, it's like, wow, this place is just big.
Yeah.
We have 8 original size rinks and then 2 smaller rinks for practices, so it's definitely a challenge, but it's a welcome challenge. So
well, we're happy to have you as part of the team.
Excellent, thank you.
And Richard, I mean, where do we start?
Yeah, right.
Founding father of MEDC.
Yeah, I've been around for a while. I don't have Mike's history of a lifer, but 27 years this year I've been in Marlborough, running the Embassy Suites Hotel. And work and play in Marlborough. So I've been incredibly fortunate to be able to do that throughout my career, and be involved here at MEDC. I run a business in the hospitality industry at the hotel, but I've worked a lot with this organization over the years to drive the top line revenue of the city, right? So that's what this organization does. So it does economic development, and the job is to drive top line revenue for the city to stabilize the residential tax rate. So hospitality, sports, tourism, et cetera, all falls into that link, and it's a big part of what we do. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to continue to help with the Marlborough Economic Development Office, because it's a great organization that's really good for the city. So awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I always love hearing Richard talk about economic development because he's so progressively thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just a great mentorship for the city to have that eye and that determination to make Marlborough the best place to live, work, and play.
Yeah, it's cool. So we've done a lot of great things here in the city over the last 20 years. So 25 years.
And you can see it, right? As a resident, you can see the growth, how much the city has exploded, how much it's grown, how much we have as far as resources for my kids, for the schools, everything went from, I'm very proud of where Marlborough's at now.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It goes down to some of the simplest things, right? So one of the things Arthur, the mayor, and I talk about, or he talks about a lot, is, it's simple as trash removal. The city of Marlborough gets trash removal of the residents all the time. Well, that's expensive. Not in Hudson. That's where they don't have those surrounding cities, and that has to be paid for somewhere. And so, Mike, to your point, all the things that the city has comes from revenue, and it's expensive, and it's got to be done. And some of if we forget about some of the most basic things, I think about trash, because that's an easy one to say. Oh, everybody's on their own on that one. So really good stuff from that stuff. So, yeah, it's important.
Yeah, and I think even just everyone saying a little bit about what they do and what their history is, it makes it so clear why we all work together, right? And why we're talking about sports tourism today. And so we have a hockey tournament, and we have a hockey facility organizer, and we have a hotel. So naturally, these things have to come together. For anyone who's not familiar with the hockey, figure skating, kind of ice sports world, is there is so much travel involved. It's a commitment that these athletes make and their families make, and they're constantly on the road. They're staying in hotels, they're eating in restaurants, they're trying to find something a little unique about where they are when they have that 4 hours in between a game of something to do, right? So that's where we're always thinking here, like, okay, we have a museum in the streets, so we have athletes, we have a bike trail, right? How do we get people who are here visiting and have a little downtime, maybe want to rest and eat, or maybe want to stay active, keep the legs warm, right? How do we drive them to see the assets and the amenities in the city?
That's all about the experience too, right? So, people in our industry and in the things, they all, when Mike's doing this Heroes Cup thing, they're not coming here because, hey, it's a cool, for 5 years, or in some cases 25 years. It's the experience. It's the fact that they can go play a really cool hockey at a hockey facility that's, state of the art, one of a kind, They have the restaurants, they have the hotels, they have the city, and all the amenities that come along with that to create an overall experience. And I say to Oliver in years past or others, the kids don't remember the score of the game,
Right.
but they remember playing knee hockey in my hotel,
Yeah.
which is like right. So it's like but those are the experiences they do, or they remember that cool restaurant, or they remember the arcade at the sports center. At the end of the day, it was that you're creating memories, right, for the kids. But that's the same for the Heroes Cup. These are all big kids, and they're coming here for a great experience. So and Mike and his team do a great job at creating a bunch of venues throughout the weekend that drive the experience that makes the Heroes Cup.
This is what I'm really looking forward to. I've never been to the Heroes Cup or be part of it, so now I'm right in the middle.
Well, I'm going to
So
apologize now.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Well, I'm really looking forward to working.
Monday morning, I
with
hope
you
you're still
and-
smiling after the tournament.
For sure.
Well, and that tournament has developed so much, right? So you're saying it's the 5th year, but even last year was a huge production compared to other years,
Yeah,
right?
so we have grown a lot every year, and I try and make it kind of a point where everybody on my board has the belief that we don't want to be a hockey tournament, we want to be the hockey tournament. So we try and keep that motive driving us forward. So we've changed a lot. We've grown a lot. Partnering with the Boston Bruins has helped us quite a bit, brought in additional resources. We now have a lot of NHL players that come out and join the weekend. It kind of just feeds to the environment. So some of the off-ice curricular stuff that we have planned is what guys talk about. Just to Richard's point, nobody remembers the scores of who won. I mean, they get the banner, they take it back to the firehouse, they have that weekend, but they're going to talk about the tailgating they did all weekend long. They're going to talk about the casino night. They're going to talk about the live bands, all the celebrities they met.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you walk around the parking lot, you could have a hot dog with the guys from FDNY, or go over and meet over with Sacramento Fire Department, right next to each other. And it's kind of just a wild experience where this brotherhood, whether it be fire, police, or military, really gets to connect off ice. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of value to that.
I know. I wonder how many people actually this year, now that they know more and saw last year, I would just go and tailgate and hang out in the parking lot.
Yeah,
and
right.
listen to the bands and
Not
go
even
in the
part of
beer
a hockey team, just
garden
have
and
the experience,
I don't need to
so,
take anybody's
yeah.
viewing room for the ice. I can just hang out outside.
Despite as crowded as it was, actually last year we were able to land a helicopter in the parking lot too.
Right? Wow. So unbelievable.
So-
But what a thrill factor for the families again that are traveling for these. It's not just about the players. It's about everyone that they bring with them and the commitment they make together.
Yeah, for sure.
So turn that back to economic development, right?
Okay.
And why it's so important. So that 100 teams, or 100 junior Bruins teams or whatever, represent 2 or 3 people per player. So 100 teams is 1,600 players. 1,600 players with 2 or 3 or 4 people per room, because they're all from out of town, generally speaking. Now you're talking about 8,000 people. It's a lot for the city to handle, but that's all economic development that drives, one, the hotel revenue, people sitting in restaurants, eating food, drinking bar, going to the mall, all the things that trickle down from that, buying gas, getting a haircut, whatever those things are that those people are doing to utilizing the city. So when you take look at the impact of that and what that means to the community, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to jobs, and it's a big deal to the top line revenue of the city. So when Mike brings that event into the thing, and the 26 or 30 events that the Sports Center does, it's all part of the engine that drives economic development. And it's bodies, and sometimes traffic's a problem, but it's good stuff. So it's all about that, and it supports the community.
Statistically, we have about 2 to 3 million people coming each year.
Wow.
To the New England Sports Center. So if you go back to roughly through 3 decades, you're looking at 60 million people.
Yeah.
So who not just coming to play hockey tournaments, who coming to eat, go out to restaurants, go and shopping. So I think it's a huge impact.
That's why
to
everyone
Marlborough.
knows Marlborough.
Well,
the
yeah.
center of the universe, right?
When I was talking with some of the Bruins players, they actually said to me, they said, we know the Sports Center, and they actually said, you'll be very hard-pressed to find a pro hockey player who hasn't gone through Marlborough at some point in their career,
Wow.
mostly probably through juniors tournaments.
Sure.
or something like that. But he's like, you'll be very hard pressed to find a pro who didn't go through there at some point in his career with the ultimate tournaments or something. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
right?
it'd be actually
boy,
cool
that's an
to-
interesting point.
Yeah, I
can
mean,
imagine that's true.
all the amount of juniors and stuff that end up going pro, and and then you had to talk about some of the players, or they go pro and then they come back and they're coaching a team later or something. But
Right.
they said it's almost hard pressed to find a hockey player, certainly in New England, but even in the country, the reach of it, that doesn't know where Marlborough is on the map in
Yeah.
Massachusetts because they've been here.
It's amazing.
The largest event at the Sports Center, I think, annually is the Beantown, and the Beantown Classic
It's
in July.
the women's Beantown, yeah. So it's for 2 weekends. You're looking at roughly over 200 teams.
That come to that
within
event.
2 weeks, and they're staying. It's every year. Every year. they
Who
come,
would have
you know.
thought there's that much hockey in the women's
On the women's
sports
side, yes.
side of things?
Right.
And it's really great hockey. From a caliber of play. These are college kids, prospective college kids, that are playing for Division I schools around the country, women,
Yeah.
and the competition is fierce, and it's a
Yeah.
cool event, and that's
Yeah,
in
yeah.
July. So it's also a time when the hospitality industry is historically slower in Marlborough because the corporate travel is not down, but that's an amazing event that happens there.
Yeah, I want to get back to that because I thought it was so interesting when we met last week that July is the busiest month. But I know we have some people hanging online that we want to take some comments from.
We do. So we have one of our most faithful guests, and I'm not talking about you, Spencer, because you're now no longer. No, I'm just kidding. We still love you, Spencer, and I know that you're watching us live. I'm so glad that you're here. But one of our most faithful guests is President Ossing. So Mike Ossing is joining us here, and he says, "How many hotel room nights does the Sports Center bring to the city?"
That's a great question, Mike. And, pre-pandemic, we estimated it around 45,000 room nights to the region. There's some events that are so large that are outside of Marlborough alone. So I would suggest probably in the 30 to 35,000
Wow.
pre-pandemic.
And that's per year.
Per year.
Per year.
And those 35,000 room nights, nine meals a day per room,
Yeah.
et cetera, and you think about all that trickle down.
Is that just for Marlborough alone? Because I know we have other hotels, right? There are in Milford,
Yeah.
in Waltham.
You
So
think
they
about the
are
reach,
pretty-
right?
Yeah, they are
Yes,
pretty
sir.
far
Yeah.
away, and we're getting more applications. Like this week, we got another one from Waltham,
Yeah.
who want to be part of the New England Sports Center. So it's hard to imagine how much traffic we really bring in. That
Yeah.
people have to stay in Waltham,
Yeah.
which is like
Right.
what, 20 minutes away,
Oh, more
30
like-
minutes
more
away.
Without traffic.
Without traffic.
And
And
Yeah,
the wind in the right
and I
direction.
think it'd be
35
a
or 40.
disservice.
So when
You
we were
know, so-
estimating that back a few years ago, Oliver, we estimated it, we did backing into the number to the 45,000. Worcester's in part of that pie, and Hudson's got a couple rooms, and certainly Westboro and Framingham and down to Milford. That reach, that spider web is pretty deep there. One of the things Wes and I would work on a lot when he was here was really focusing on filling Marlborough hotel rooms first. That's the economic development of this community. Was to make sure that the Marlborough hotels are considered first, and then it would trickle down and trickle out from there. But really important. But when you think about that volume and that, when you think about 3 meals a day, you think about what they're here for and all that, it's a big deal. It's kind of impressive from one facility.
Yeah.
I think, I was just going to say, so Panther country, right? We're athletes here. And so we're now attracting other sporting facilities. So we have the New England Baseball Complex, right? I think they said they had 20 tournaments there this year.
Yeah.
North American Football Club just opened up on the border of Marlborough and Northborough. And they've got multiple tournaments, and they're filling, I think they said, on average 2,000 hotel rooms a weekend in the area. So when I was stopping by dropping off some materials last week, Best Western on a Friday, they're close to overbooked, right?
Capacity, right,
And
capacity.
it's okay, we're looking at a weekend in March and we're booming with athletes. It's pretty exciting.
The interesting thing about youth sports tourism is, Marlborough really is a corporate hub to Metro West, right? So the corporate, now that we're post-pandemic and coming out of that, corporate travel Sunday through Thursday is a really big deal. And, whether it be the Boston Size and Synovians and Quest and GE Healthcare and et cetera, that they do the business in the city Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday. But then Thursday through Sunday is when youth sports tourism kicks in. So that's the twofer, if you would. So there's a demand generator that from there, and it literally goes out to Fort Devens and soccer and so baseball, soccer, all those things that play part of that, and not to mention hockey. So, and it's a big, and again, Marlborough's got 2,000 hotel rooms in Marlborough. And there's the positive. There's a pro and con. Geez, it's more traffic in Marlborough than you want to have in this. But, it's really kind of off on that western side of the city, so a lot of it doesn't trickle into the city.
You might not even drive on that side of the city.
Exactly.
I grew up on Orchard Street, and for a while there, it was just the mall, right?
Yeah, right.
The only time I would go to that side of town, like towards Northborough, Southborough, Hudson, Berlin, was to go to the mall. And so now to have that there, like you said, it doesn't present as much of a traffic issue. But let's say that you're a Marlborough resident and you're not a fan of, or you have some opposition or some feelings about even the words economic development. When we have these events, when we have all of these people coming to our city, it's helping our restaurants, it's helping our businesses, but it's also helping our residents, because every time someone's dining in Marlborough, what is it, 2%? Or what's not 2%? What's
the local option.
That tax. So there's a tax that you pay on your bill, and where does that go? Our parks and recs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is amazing. I no longer live in Marlborough. I'll be okay. Maybe I'll end up back here someday. It'll happen. But anyway, I love taking my kids to the parks in Marlborough. Like Ward Park has that awesome, the amenities there are amazing. The bathrooms, it's a big deal for a mom with 4 young kids that there is a nice, well taken care of bathroom right next to the playground, so I can keep an eye on everyone. So even if, like I said, you might have some feelings towards why is there so much, the traffic's terrible. It is great for our city. It is great for our city, and yeah, I just wanted to mention that meals tax because it's so important.
Near and dear to my heart too. So really big deal is that Parks and Recreation Fund that's there. I was fortunate to be part of that conversation when that happened. The reality of that is that's $1 million a year now.
Yep.
$1 million a year that's dedicated money to Parks and Rec for the President Ossing and the mayor to really kind of form and help continue to develop that stuff.
And you don't even notice it.
No, no.
Well, when you're paying your bill, you don't even notice
the
it.
best part about that is it's not a disadvantage, a competitive disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
Every city and town in the state, in the Commonwealth, have the same. It's the same percent. It's just Marlborough chose to do it a little bit differently, more out of the financial stability of Marlborough and the leadership that it's had over the last 25 years to make sure that the fiscally conservative city was run fiscally conservative to be in a really good position that they are today.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's important. So then people have the conversation, well, why so many hotel rooms? Why the big side of that?
Yeah.
And, a simple equation. Hotels are what I call twofers, right? And what I mean by twofers, it's the tax revenue that they generate. So a hotel pays the same property taxes as a first-class office space, except they have almost the same revenue in state-funded taxes that come back to the city. And so, $100,000 commercial real estate building, the hotel is a $200,000 return to the city from a revenue standpoint. Really cool stuff. And Mike's program helps drive that too. So, and the sports center.
And I think we're talking about tourism in general. That's offering that money, right? It's not our residents typically staying in hotel rooms that are paying that tax.
Mm-hmm.
And these revenue generators, these tournaments and the hockey rink and the sports facilities and the location off the interstate, right? Mm-hmm. All of these great things are bringing people to the city to eat. And so it's not just our residents that we're leaning on for parks and rec or economic development. It's actually the people that are here visiting us.
Right. And I'm just going to pull up a map here of, I don't know if you guys can see this, but just look at this hub and all that Marlborough has to offer. I mean, does anyone want to talk about what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I think we're looking at a map, right, that's our corporate map of that area, right? And the New England Sports Center on there, and it's revenue generators, right? So a big goal of Marlborough Economic Development is to make sure that our commercial occupancy rate is high, and we're able to do this by creating and maintaining relationships with all these businesses listed and making sure that they have the direct line to the city they need, the support from the city that they need, and that we're saying, okay, you have a hockey rink, if you can fill it, we can feed them, we can give them somewhere to sleep, right? So we all work together. And I think it's interesting, like, I would love to know, how often do the three of you talk when the Heroes Cup tournament planning is going on?
So it's a lot of pre-work, right, Mike?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's,
and
I
I
mean,
mean-
you're meeting with the sports center, weekly or.
I think our first meeting was a month and a half ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Just,
becoming
started.
5 years. It's becoming pretty easy.
Yeah,
Um,
well-oiled machine.
Send Richard a text and say, hey, here's the dates. All right, we have a 10-minute phone call. We're good now because we have kind of standing relationship. Same thing with the sports center. All right, here's what we're doing. So, it becomes a well-oiled system. But yeah, we plan everything a year out in terms of what we're doing, how we're changing up the event, trying to switch it up a little bit. But it works well because it's I don't know.
Back
it's a well-oiled system.
Well,
previously, I'll mention our friend Wes Tuttle.
Yeah.
And, Wes and I have worked together for 25 years before his passing. And I literally will tell you that he's the person I spoke to the most on a weekly basis for 25 years. If you took all conversations besides my personal family, like Wes and I would talk 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day in certain periods of time. And, so that part of our industry from an economic standpoint was a big part of it because we work so much collaboratively on all different kinds of projects, in the city. So it wasn't just always about hockey or whatever. Sometimes it was about other things that were going on in the city that we all work together on pretty regularly. So.
Right. And just for anyone who's not familiar watching, Wes was the former general manager of New England Sports Center. So
Had a great event for him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Big fundraiser. I know there was a lot of skaters on it.
We have
Raised
another big event coming up. We did the West Tuttle Memorial Tournament.
Yeah.
So it's coming up in August, and all the proceeds go to the West Tuttle Foundation. So we're looking forward to that.
which is unbelievable, right? The goal of that is to make sure that no
I mean,
skates left unlaced.
Wes was the
is-
icon.
Yeah.
He was a New England sports center.
Yeah, he was
So and
Wes was
everybody
my
knew
high
him,
school hockey coach.
so.
I can't. That voice is just still burning in my head. Take the body, just yelling at on the ice. But when this happened, and all the teams were asking about a tournament, Wes was the guy who said, "Mike, you're bringing." I'm like, I don't know anything about running a hockey tournament. Wes is like, "Mike, you bring me the teams. I'll run a tournament for you. This is easy, And so I said, "You want teams? Here you go. Here's 50 teams. Let's go." And so we started the year one off with 50 teams when we were supposed to have 16.
Wow.
My wife wasn't too happy about that. But I was due to Wes. He takes it, organizes it. Him and Mary Jo. She just had a whole schedule, done everything. To the point where the first year people were like, "This is the best on-run tournament we've ever played in." And I said, "Great, I had nothing to do with it. Thanks for coming." So
I wrote a good letter.
But is that kind of relationship and friendship with Wes and seeing his driving factor and what he did, I owe a lot to that guy. I think everybody in the hockey community in Marlborough owes a lot to that guy in terms of what he did and where the foundation he set up to the point where now I could text Richard, "Hey, here's the dates for the tournament," and have everything done. And one of the first meetings I had with Wes when we started the tournament planning, he picks up the phone and calls Richard, "Hey, I need you to meet Mike." Okay. Boom. That's how that connection formed.
Right.
And it's foundations and setups like that his entire he'd sit in his office, and before you were done the meeting, he had 5 more meetings scheduled for you just via text message, and that's an art. That's an art within itself. The way that guy was able to connect things and organize it, and able to launch a tournament in a first year like
Right.
that. So that was pretty good. So that's what established our foundation for us.
And I know you're downplaying a little bit, but you have to make a call to Richard, but there's also the 10 other hotels, right? That you're working with a whole group of people. And I think when we meet, so we meet as the hotel group and make sure we're all know what's coming up and we have the schedule, but then we're sending that schedule to the restaurants, right? Because they need to know if 8,000 people are coming into the city for the weekend.
Yep.
And they need to make sure that they're staffing, they're purchasing, their planning is on par with this. So there's a lot of behind the scenes maneuvering because of the partnerships and the relationships and the dedication to the city from everybody involved.
Yeah, back in the day, Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks wanted to know what the schedule was. Back then, now they're kind of used to it. But, it was like, well, where'd this happen? Where'd this come from? Or particularly the restaurants in that. The other thing that's important to talk about is location. So Marlborough sits at the crossroads in New England. I don't care whether you're coming, if you're a regional person from Connecticut or Bangor, Maine, Marlborough's in the middle of it. So the number of people that can come and be at a hub, in this case hockey, but if it's a corporate event or whatever, Marlborough is kind of the hub to that. We always call it the crossroads to New England. So, between 290, 495, Route 90, what sits there? It's Marlborough, and Marlborough's infrastructure of what it does. So it's a really big deal, and sometimes people forget that. I don't care, if you're a snowbird from Canada and you're driving to Florida, you're coming through Marlborough. There's no way around it. So right, and if you're going from Virginia up to Maine for your summer, you're coming through Marlborough. So it doesn't matter, or Pennsylvania or Ohio or whatever, unless you're going to go a northern route that takes you up towards the high end of Vermont. But you're coming through Marlborough at some point, or at least the skirts of it. So it's a big part of that overall. So that all part of the great stuff about Marlborough.
Yeah.
My tagline as a guest on this podcast will be that Marlborough is the center of the universe.
There you go. That's great.
That's the takeaway.
That's
And
it.
we're done with the stream. Marlborough is the center. Wait, while I've got everyone's attention, I want to make sure that we answer some of your questions and read your comments. So Shelley Clark says, "Good morning. We are grateful for the traffic the mall receives from these venues and events." That's awesome.
Thanks for joining us, Shelley.
Thank you for joining us. And then Jenny Cataldo says, "Hey guys, love seeing the teams come down from Canada for Beantown events." That's awesome.
Thank God they're going to be able to come this year, right? So, the last 2 years the border's been shut down. So
Yeah,
to be able to get that
Everybody
Canadian
can come.
traffic, so exciting stuff.
Jenny is another one that really looks forward to the knee hockey tournaments in the hallways and missed those
Sure.
during the quieter times.
I've got one other comment that's going to stroke someone's ego, so sorry for you guys. Luis DaCosta says, "It's amazing to see Richard's passion for all things related to the city of Marlborough and to realize how much he's done throughout the years to improve it. Great job, MEDC."
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Luis. Thanks for joining us, another MEDC board member.
Yep.
Awesome. So we had said we were talking about July, right? And just kind of a little bit more about how these revenue generators change the seasons for us. So in our meeting a couple of weeks ago, I heard July's our busiest month, and I'm like, what are people coming to Marlborough in July for?
So
Fort Meadow.
Yeah, right, for the lake, right? So historically, July or August, October was always the busiest hospitality month of the year. There's no real holidays that are negative. There's Columbus Day weekend, big sports event. Leaf peepers, etc. Corporate travel's back at it. October was always the busiest month of the year. That's changed probably in the last 5 years, and primarily because of the Beantown. 200, 225 teams, whatever that looks like. The Junior Bruins run that, I think, right?
Yes, the junior.
And then baseball, corporate travel's up, transient family travel's coming through Marlborough. July historically has got a July 4th holiday. Well, that's a downer for the industry. Oh no, we've got 2 or 3 events going on and a soccer event, and then you think about the Beantown, and that's 5-day events, and then all the things that go around that. Now all of a sudden July has turned into the busiest month of the year in all things hospitality / restaurants, and that goes right down again.
Absolutely.
Frankly, July is a pretty slow month for the restaurant industry because on the weekends everybody's kind of spreading out, going on vacation, going to the Cape, doing their thing. So now all of a sudden this tourism is a big deal for the restaurant industry as well, and the trickle down of that. But yeah, can you believe July?
No,
it was never the
I
way.
couldn't believe it.
Well, I
Never
think
the
it's
way.
because of all the spring summer camps we have. So
Yeah.
I mean we personally we have so many camps. Now everyone is saying, okay, no, the next month and a half, right? It's kind of slow. Certainly not for me, right? But now after April, then May rolls around, then all the camps are starting. So I think I haven't been through it yet since I just started back in September. Everyone says, you will see, it's going to get crazy. I'm going like, crazy? You know, what can go crazy here? But it's the truth, you know. So, I mean, there's so many kids registered. Then we have our own leagues, our spring leagues, middle school leagues. You know, it just never stops.
And in the
which is
summertime,
good.
in July, you know, they're skating on, you know, typically at the sports center, it's from 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon till midnight.
Yeah,
Not
adult
in the
groups.
summertime. In the summertime, it's 7 o'clock in the morning till midnight, right? I mean, with all your camps.
It's
and
all the
everything going.
camps here. Because we just have now in May 7th, that's a Saturday, we have the Olympic figure skating.
Wow.
They're coming here. So Nancy Kerrigan will be there, you know. So it's, we're not just doing hockey at the New England Sports Center. It's now we're getting more into figure skating as well. So it's...
I just got way too excited about it. I'm like blushing thinking about Nancy Kerrigan.
Yeah, she's going to be there, and I
Jill's gonna
believe
be kicked
Gracie Gold. Gracie Gold is her name. She's an ex-Olympian, you know.
Wow.
So it's going to be, it's exciting, you know. So because the sports center is always known for hockey, but we're not always there for hockey, you know. We're there for other sports, you know, figure skating, and you know, we have a lot of conference rooms, you know. So we have offices there. So it's you know, we're doing what we can, so you know, to help out.
What an opportunity for kids in this area, though, to say, okay, I'm starting to get passionate about figure skating. I can go and see Nancy Kerrigan, or to say this is I'm skating on the same ice as all these professional players that have gone through there.
I'm living that firsthand. I have my son is a big hockey player, 11 years old, big hockey player, big baseball player, and he talks about all these facilities and his home rink, the sports center, where he plays on the Flames, and you know, it goes around. Every other rink, he's like, yeah, this rink's all right. I'm like, you're so spoiled, it's ridiculous.
We
like,
are.
you're not
We
playing
are.
on turf field. Oh, man, sorry. Like, he's so used to all the turf fields we have in Marlborough, all the parks, all the nice rinks. I'm like,
Right.
kid, this is not the way it is.
Right.
You know, you got it made pretty well here.
Yeah,
To
you know,
go-
back in the day, and this is kind of before my time, but Jerry Seymour at the Wild would tell me he played his hockey on Lake Williams.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Wow.
over across the street from Kennedy's Restaurant, behind Monty's, was a pond back there. That's where the kids played there. In the wintertime was a pond there. And then, as most people know, off of, is it Stevens Street by the high school?
Yeah.
There's that pond there that freezes over every
Yeah.
night.
These
Back
are
in
the
the
best
day, that's
times.
where
These are the
yeah.
best times.
Yeah.
That tiny little spot.
Yeah, there was they
Wow.
put out I
Well,
drive by.
I skated on there, but
I live on Fort Meadow, so we skate out there all the time. You
So
know,
it's
we're
kinda-
all
but now you've got this
skating all winter.
amazing facility, and it goes right back to the Naven, right? And it goes
Yeah.
back to the Naven rink being where, Mike, you probably started there as a young pup.
did.
You were
Oh, yeah.
skating there and
Yeah,
before
yeah.
the sports center. So
Yep.
really cool things that
before the
Marlborough
sports
has
center,
this stuff to offer.
Right. So if there's overflow of the rinks, we also have the water to skate on, the frozen.
I get such a
Frozen
charge
ice.
out of the fields though too. So one of the turf fields that are in Marlborough that the city's has now are kind of like Field of Dreams. You know, that
They
high
really
school
are.
baseball
Oh my
field
gosh.
is
Absolutely
amazing,
gorgeous.
and equal to that is the girls softball field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those fields are state of the art facilities that
Yeah.
that Marlborough's so fortunate to have, that are part of the programs that the city has as resources that are
1,000%.
which is cool stuff.
Jill took a picture, an overview shot of the turf field behind the middle school, and every time that picture comes up on something, I just can't believe that it's in Marlborough and that those are where those students are spending their days,
Yeah.
and that's where teams are getting together
That's
on
where
a
they're
Saturday
doing-
morning, right, to play. Where, I mean, growing up, we still had great fields here, but it wasn't the
Nothing
same
like
game.
Not like that.
Nothing like that.
yeah, there's that slight bitterness that I have when I go to some of the kids. I'm like, oh man, I
Right.
used to play softball down here. We didn't have a scoreboard. We had
Right.
It was a dugout, like.
Right.
But it's really.
But we always
awesome.
had enough fields to play
Yeah.
on, so I think
We
Marlborough always has given the attention to the sports in the
That's true.
area.
Yeah.
Um,
We've got a question I
Yeah,
want to make
great.
sure we throw on here. From Gemma, it says, moving forward, how do you see the sports tourism increasing for the city? What other activities are scheduled for this year? Anyone want to run with that?
Yeah, I think, we did bring up there's other facilities coming close to town that are utilizing and hosting tournaments. I think to Richard's point, I mean, we always talk about how do we get attention to these turf fields and
Yeah, I
support
think
tournaments.
one thing we didn't mention is Four Kicks, right? So Four Kicks
Yeah,
is
right.
a 60,000 square foot facility that really is a state-of-the-art facility with indoor and outdoor fields. I think we continue to sprawl the industry. You know, Marlborough's the hub. So if you're doing something in Worcester, you kind of want to be in Marlborough. Worcester's done an amazing job at reinventing themselves with the Woo Sox and some of the economic stuff.
Yeah.
But still, Marlborough's the hub. So if there's an event over at the DCU Center and the hotels in Worcester are filling up, they don't have enough. I think Worcester has like 600 hotel rooms, and that trickle down that comes here. And we talk about Fort Devens, and you talk about Lancaster, I couldn't think of that earlier, and some of these other places that do that are important things to do. But again, we supply an experience. Marlborough has the unique opportunity to supply the guests traveling a unique experience that has the trickle-down effect and the ability to repeat. You know, the Apex Center is a phenomenal one-of-a-kind facility, and you know, amen to the developers and Robert Walker and his team and the way the city worked with them on the thing, because very seldom, I look at the road all the time, is there a traffic problem or anything. It just flows really well. And you know, I've lived in that world for the last 27 years, and I'm amazed that it doesn't have a bigger impact on the traffic. But that Apex Center and those restaurants and those, you know, whether it be even Goldfish, the swim place, and all these little places are such a huge part of our community that have been an amazing addition, that are reasons why people are coming. And by the way, the reason corporate people are coming, the reason the new office parks, or the reason the campus is growing, it's because of the infrastructure and the ability that people can have where they can live, work, and play in Marlborough, and then get out of Marlborough as need be pretty effectively. So really cool stuff that way. That's not just sports tourism. It's really about a great benefit for the residents. You know, I go to Goldfish more than I would like to.
Richard's
I have
learning how to
little ones,
swim.
and so swimming in the pool, but it's really cool. And so those are things for the residents too, that we all get to live, work, and play in that environment, and then it also grows the pie, and the pie is the top line revenue, dollars to the city. $180 million budget the city has that we have to. The city's getting Arthur, the mayor, and Mike Ossing have to find that money someplace, and so there's all these little pieces that make that happen. So, the amen to the sports center for being a part of the pie, right? And the Heroes Cup for doing it too. Now, in all fairness, guys, Mike Matros is a first responder first and foremost. For the last how many years, Mike?
It's 17 years in the federal.
So, I mean, it's amazing the work that Mike's done, and through the pandemic, hats off to you, because really, you know, you were on the front line during the pandemic.
It was interesting, that's for sure.
For sure. So first and foremost, thanks for all you've done there.
My pleasure.
So.
I love
Absolutely.
it. Job of
Thanks,
passion,
Mike.
for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
Mike,
That's
can
for sure,
you-
that's for
Can
sure.
you do me a favor, and for anyone that has not heard of the Heroes Cup, can you just give us a quick rundown of?
Sure.
You've kind of introduced it a tiny bit, but we've got the picture up on the screen. Just let us know, what is it, what's it for, what can people expect, and why should people come out?
Sure. So the Heroes Cup is an exclusive tournament for fire, police, or military. In fact, you can't play in the tournament unless each team is only allowed one civilian. So that's one civilian spot they use as any leverage between it, be a pro hockey player if they need someone, or if they needed the goalie, or maybe it's their top fundraiser. They know a guy who could help raise a lot of money. So all of our teams come to Marlborough. They compete. We have 12 different divisions that they play in. So hockey ranges from our A division is a lot of semi-pro hockey players and very fast-paced hockey, to our D division is guys who maybe took up hockey last week and all of a sudden want to fundraise. You know, it is a big range in terms of guys, but at the end of the day, everybody is fire, police, or military, and they're all playing for the charity of their choice, which is kind of cool because we structured it like a Boston Marathon event, where it's one event, but it benefits so many charities. So with our partnership for the Bruins, we're able to leverage incentives and incentivize these guys to raise money for their charity. So we have teams that could be playing for, like our Chelmsford team is playing for kids with disabilities in sports. Waltham Fire is one of our top fundraisers every year. They're playing for kids with cancer. There's teams that every year are playing for a fallen officer. Right before the tournament last year, we had Worcester, a police officer, Officer Familia, die in the line of duty. And that happened right before the tournament. And we were able to get together and lobby some of our partnerships with the Bruins, and between the money we raised at the tournament and some of our partners, we were able to give that family $100,000 on site right after the Officer Familia just died. But the teams are playing for their own charity, which is kind of cool because now we'll incentivize them best ice time, which if you're at the New England Sports Center and you get to pick your own ice time, that's a big deal. And you get your own locker room for the weekend. You don't have to carry your gear a mile to get into the rink. That's a big deal. So these guys will raise $20,000-$30,000 for the charity of their choice to be that top team. And at the end of the weekend, it'll be 100 teams, and we'll send checks out to probably 90 different charities after that weekend. So the pool is really spread out, and the way I describe the Heroes Cup the best is like the Boston Marathon, where it's one big event and everybody fundraises and plans for 3 months ahead of time to get to the event, and then they get there. But it's a team marathon to go through. And then us as a host foundation, the Heroes Cup Foundation, does a lot for mental health, cancer, and line of duty death support in our first responder network. So we've kind of built our own little internal network. Obviously, we'd love to help as many line of duty deaths and stuff as we can, but with our teams, particularly people we have a relationship with, like just recently, Mass State Police had a trooper die, and Mass State Police needed a fundraiser. So Ollie hosted a fundraising event for the trooper. And so those kind of networks we have are able to raise funds really quick throughout the year because these guys meet each other and stuff all year long. So it is a very exclusive group, exclusive tournament where you'll have some of the most badass people in the country coming here. You have, Navy SEALs. You have Marines. We had guys from SEAL Team 6 here. We have guys from FDNY, all kinds of different fire departments. So, like, you walk around the parking lot, I guarantee you the stories will never stop, and you'll hear some of the most amazing life stories that from these guys, and that's my passion is supporting these guys, because they're just unbelievable group.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that's the Heroes
is
Cup.
great.
Mike, have you broken out and done any other events? I mean, is there a golf tournament coming?
We have,
up?
yeah. So we partner with PXG to have a golf tournament, and that's kind of our event that we do for civilians to support our first responders. So we have the golf tournament. We've done a bowling tournament at Apex where Ray Bork hosted that for us. We've done a bunch of events throughout the year. Now it's becoming more regular. People keep asking for events, and we want to bring guys together because there's also a mental health component to it too, for guys to give them something to do in and out. And to tell you a short story in terms of what this means to the guys. So one of our initiatives is mental health, right? So mental health in the fire service or fire, police, or military is a big deal right now. So one of the guys came from Virginia, and he contacted me and said, he's like, Mike, I got to talk to you. So I finally meet up with him. He's like, Mike, this tournament saved my life. I'm like, all right, yeah, thinking a weekend away with your guys. Yeah, great. And I'm like, oh, that's funny. He's like, no, I'm serious. You saved my life. I'm like, all right, you're going to have to tell me more than that, bud. So he's like, I was in a very dark spot. I just got home from deployment over in the Navy. I was in a very dark spot. I was actually in my house. I didn't want to be, my relationship with my family was very on the line. I couldn't go to work. I really couldn't function. He said I was borderline suicidal. And my wife reached out to some of my people I deployed with, and they came and essentially kidnapped me, came into the basement and said, let's go, we're going to Marlborough. And they kidnapped him from Virginia, took him up here, and showed him one of the best guys' weekends out. Wow. And showed him that the support network's there for him, right? Yeah. But at the same time, he got back and he got his life on track. He realized there's all these people that love him. There's all this network out there. And so he spent the next year going through getting the help he needed and very positive mindset. So when I saw him the following year, he said, I've had this date circled on the calendar for a year now because the Heroes Cup has saved my life. Wow. And there's stories like that we hear all the time. So yes, it's a hockey tournament. Nobody cares what happens on the ice. It's a fun way to get together. What it's about for me is seeing all my brothers and sisters throughout the country and not seeing them at a funeral because we've gone to too many of those.
What a testimonial.
Also, Mike didn't say that we added a Kids Heroes Cup this year.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, new edition. We have a few new additions this year. We have the Kids Heroes Cup on Thursday, which is kind of cool because so we were working with Billy Jaffe and Ruru, and the idea is kind of teach these kids that there's more to hockey than just winning going in the NHL and going through and finding this connection and with people. And so my son, his favorite part about the Heroes Cup is the charity work, is the giving, and so he dives all into it, and it makes him a better person because of it. And so trying to teach that to all his 11-year-old friends and having tournaments. So now we're going to have a mini 3-on-3 tournament that uses these local kids to get together, have fun, have the Heroes Cup experience. Meanwhile, they're raising funds for their local fire and police.
That's awesome.
We added that this year.
Of course, a lot of people come out for those kids.
He's a hustler. I'm teaching him young, man.
Doing a fundraiser.
He
banged me for $100. I was over at the Sports Center. He was raising money for the top. Richard,
Hey, Apple doesn't fall far.
I need some cash. So
He told me that story. My response is, "You should have got 200."
that was awesome.
So we added that this year. We have we added a new event this year. We're having a casino night, which would be kind of cool. We're having turn the upstairs of the Sports Center into a casino Friday night. We're gonna bring in 50 dealers from Encore Casino, and we're gonna have blackjack, craps, roulette. We'll have professional dealers there. We have live bands playing. We have a bunch of celebrity guests coming to NHL guys coming to play blackjack with the table. That event's open to the public, so people in Marlborough that'll be June 10th. Anybody looking to come in. This year we actually are going to have full spectators. Last year we didn't advertise or promote spectators at all. There'll be hockey all weekend, so you can walk around to the different rinks and see a really good hockey game going on in any rink. You might see California team playing a Michigan team in Marlborough, and that'd be kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in seeing some of the different hockey.
Can't wait for the cleanup after that.
We have some good cleanup companies as sponsors that help pay for that. It's a lot of volunteers.
I make sure I see you Monday morning in the rink.
We'll have that dumpster full for you. We have we film a couple TV shows and some podcasts and stuff like that from the rink, which is kind of cool all weekend long. We have Sunday is our championship games, so all of our championship games will go from like 11 a.m. to about 3 p.m. and there'll be 12 different championship games going on. So you'll have all the bagpipes and drums and everybody there supporting them. And then our vendors are there all weekend long, and our vendors put on a really good experience. They're not there just to sell; they're there to support. Mm-hmm. So they're doing a lot of giveaways. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff. Like PXG this year wants to set up golf simulators, and it has just a fun experience. So it should be a good year.
Yeah, it's so great. And I think, too, to be able to see the brotherhood and the sisterhood come together at these events. We just had a fundraiser in Marlborough for a family that just the turnout and the genuine support that is there changes lives, right? Like the testimony you shared, I know. For sure. The family that just recently benefited. That's life-changing when you're not having to say, oh, I've got to pick up all these OTs and then I'm going to have more time taken away from my family, or I have to figure this out, right? To know that you have that support group is so huge, and to hear that it really makes a change in people's lives is unbelievable. And that doesn't just happen with one person. It's also your kid collecting money or, the operations team making sure that schedule works and can get as many people there as possible, and the hospitality industry being there to feed them and make sure they get a good night's sleep. And it's pretty incredible.
Think about that in the sense of getting involved. If you're in the community of Marlborough and you want to get involved in something, some of these events that are going on, that are all sponsored by the hospitality/restaurant industry or whatever, or you're looking for a job. Mm-hmm. The hospitality industry is always hiring. There are a lot of positions available there, and then you want to get involved. I think, Lindsay, that's how you ended up here. Yeah. Is your involvement with the Evening of Giving and Bobby K's and doing that stuff. Right. The restaurant industry all supports that stuff. So the sense of community in Marlborough is really pretty amazing. I only know it from 27 years, right? I lived somewhere else before, and I didn't have the experience in the other communities that I do now here. But I think sometimes when you think about that, we're pretty fortunate with some of the people that are really engaged in the city, doing a lot of things that aren't about per se economic development or aren't about sports tourism, are more about the community, and giving back to the community. So
people show up for each other in this town. We're starting to feel, because we have so much more to offer. So to me, having been 38 years more or less in Marlborough, it felt smaller as a kid, and Marlborough has grown so much. But that culture of small town, we're there for each other. We show up. Yeah. We might trash talk each other once in a while, but if you're going through something, we're showing up, and we're going to be there, and we're not just going to say it. We're going to do what we can to really support each other. It's special.
Amazing.
You think I hope Oliver's feeling that, being somebody newer in the community.
Definitely.
That supports there.
I feel also the pain. No.
That you're not from Marlborough.
I want to be honest, because every time we have those big events, I get a call from a resident from Bigelow Drive. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys know the situation. Trust me, I would welcome every comment whatever we can do to make, those big buses not going through this Bigelow Drive.
Right.
Yeah.
We email all our customers now, please, if you come by bus, if you're staying in one of the close by hotels, you have to use the highway. Don't go through Bigelow,
Yeah.
because if you guys know Bigelow, there's like barely any room, especially
Yeah.
when you have two buses crossing each other.
Talking about Bigelow Street that goes from the downtown right to the New England Sports Center. Literally, it's almost like a direct line.
It's
way
a
the
direct
first
line,
line.
and,
Yeah.
and no one wants to take the extra 5 minutes. I'm going
Right.
like,
People just
but-
put it in their GPS. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly,
That's
and
definitely.
That's
and we're
probably
trying
what it
to
is.
do everything, it's like
Yeah.
if you should maybe, station some police there on those big weekends,
Back in
the
so,
day.
or we talk to some of the hotels, can you please let the bus driver know he can't go through the neighborhood,
Yeah.
so, and, we get, every weekend we get the calls, I talk to the police, let everybody know you
Yeah.
can't go, but, they still do it.
Right.
On my way home, I see the buses, I'm like, what is going on here, But
Yeah, there's always
you know,
challenges
so
to success.
any ideas how we can help out on our end,
Yeah, to make
I'm
it better
welcome.
for the residents.
I'm welcome.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like, hey,
Yeah.
we're here, we want to run the tournaments, we don't care. No, we do
Yeah.
care, because trust me, I don't want, if I have a little kid, running around in the yard, I don't want to have, the buses come down my street and we're like, what is going
Right.
on here, So it's,
I think
you
having
know.
that open door policy is a lot
Important to
of.
open that communication.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Back in the
So,
day,
and
back
that's,
before
you know.
back before GPS, it was that we wouldn't give out any directions. You have to go to the highway. Give directions to
But,
490
you
and
know.
290.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot we can do about that today. But poor Meredith, she lives on that world, right? Meredith from here at the MEDC office, right by her house. So I think people are pretty respectful, all in all. And
Yeah.
and the number of times there's a bus that's in town, it's way less than what the normal traffic is as well. But boy, you
Yeah.
can feel that pain sometimes
Yeah.
too,
no,
for sure.
Right.
definitely,
So, yeah,
so.
it's important to acknowledge that.
Yep. And I think people hearing you say that you're willing to help and
Well, I
open to
I
suggestions,
can imagine
like,
not
that's
everyone
what's
must
going on.
like the New England Sports Center when we have those big events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I feel the pain for those, for those
Yeah.
residents, and
Yeah.
we're obviously here to help and to do our best part to make sure, So maybe we close off Bigelow Street for the weekend. Who knows? I don't know. We gotta,
So I'd like to just we're bouncing up against time, but I think it would be interesting to hear when groups approach New England Sports Center about coming there, what advice or what information do you give them to say this is the place to come, or this is where you should host your hockey tournament, or has the facility kind of already made that reputation for itself? And
I do believe, we're in business now, 28 years, since 1994, we do have that reputation, that, we hold big events. And, if you a junior scout, why do you want to not come there? We have 8 rinks. You can go from rink to rink to rink instead of driving from Canton to, Bridgewater, right?
Yeah.
Bridgewater to Foxborough.
Yeah.
You sit in your car like half of the day. Here, you can go enjoy, have some good food, go out at night, So I think we are well known. But I think right now there's so many other tournaments in place too.
Yeah.
So, now we're really competing in the spring and summer with other events, in the Boston area as well. So it's,
I think one of the things that the Sports Center has done incredibly well historically is really reaching out to the community. And we've had some massive events that have come from colleges, from Olympic skating to whatever, from teams coming from Germany to literally
China too. China.
Germany, because I've got jersey in my office hanging. That have literally, why would I come to Marlborough and why would I do that? And they coordinate with Ollie and his team and then in the city and put up a whole itinerary of that stuff. Sometimes it includes a Bruins game or a Red Sox game or a Boston College game. And sometimes those experiences, right, are a big deal. But, and that's when the city writes a letter and the MEDC writes a letter, the hotel all write, we collaborate on that. It's called an RFP, right? A request for a proposal on why should we come to Marlborough. And some of those events that are in those shoulder periods of our year or the weeks or whatever are a big deal to the industry and to the Sports Center as well. So it's kind of cool. It's not just youth stuff. Sometimes it's collegiate or other things that are really a big deal that, to your point earlier, Mike, there's not many skaters in the NHL, and I had never thought about it that way,
Yeah.
that haven't come through the
Wow.
the Sports Center at some time in their career. from around the country. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
uncommon to have people from Washington State staying in our hotel.
Right.
You know, or up from Ottawa, Canada, or you know, Montreal, and so it's really a cool melting pot of all these different people from around the world in some
Like
cases.
Lindsay said, Marlborough is the center of the world.
I mean, we have to end there.
Perfect.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming, having this conversation, giving some insight into what goes into the jobs you do and the efforts you put forward and what it means to the community, whether it's the city of Marlborough or your own communities that are attending these events or visiting your facilities. It's just a great conversation to have about how everybody continues to work together to keep Marlborough on the map. So thank you so much. This was an excellent conversation. I think we could go on for the next 4 hours, but maybe we'll have a part 2. I hope
nice-
everyone has. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Nice job on your part.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah,
Richard.
yeah,
Let's,
yeah.
guys, let's give it up for Lindsay.
Yeah,
Great
right.
job.
Absolutely.
She's been a guest on the stream many times, but now she has checked the box and being an excellent host.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
happy to have you.
Thanks for your support.
I
I had a
enjoyed it.
text from Jill at 8 this morning. You've got it, and I'm like, okay.
Fantastic.
But yeah,
Awesome.
thanks for
Excellent.
everyone. Yeah, and
Excellent for
I hope
having
that the viewers and the listeners, whether you're live or you're catching the recording later, that you feel empowered to join the conversation, ask questions, get involved in how you want to get involved, and we'll look forward to seeing you. I believe it's Wednesday, April 6th. But first Wednesday of every month, the next episode will be Steve Eulis from Fireflies in here talking to us about, again, why he chose Marlborough and why Marlborough is a great place to have a business. So we'll see you then. Thanks.